the other part of Omar and Mike Tomlin that I think is very significant, and I wanted to toss this out here real fast, okay? I got a one-word Mike Tomlin answer in a situation where there were 0 one-word Mike Tomlin answers. And that one-word Mike Tomlin answer was for all of you guys, okay? For everybody listening who has DM'd me, messaged me, called, tossed a message on here saying, is Jaylen the guy? Mike Tomlin says yes. And that's all I needed to hear was, is Jaylen a 3-down running back and starting quality running back in your eyes? Yes. Awesome. Sounds good. Question answered. George Pickens was the other one. And I asked Tomlin and I asked Omar, and Omar gave me a really good response on if DK Metcalf's acquisition means or changes anything for George Pickens in the future. And it doesn't. They both made it very clear. Mike made it clear that GP and DK are different players and could do different things, and they're going to try to utilize both of them in different ways. And then Omar made it very clear that, you want 2 star wide receivers in the NFL, and it does not change anything for the future of George Pickens or the Steelers' plan, which in my head, it went like this. This is what that means. It does not solidify that no matter what, George Pickens is going to be here in 2025. What it does do is most likely remove the chance of a George Pickens trade during the NFL draft. If you're going to trade Pickens, it's going to come with controversy. It's going to come with George not showing up or holding in during training camp, and there's just no chance that a deal's getting done. That's what it means. It doesn't mean that the Steelers are actively looking for a trade, and they most likely will at least try to see if they can figure something out with George and be able to keep both of them. That could definitely mean that they're going to wait a year before they sign him to a long-term deal, and they might explain that to him, but they are going to try to work it out with him and figure that thing out. And I think that's huge because I have been under the assumption that the Steelers do not have plans to even try to negotiate with George, and I don't think I took that away from today. I truly believe that Omar's answer to me gave me the thought of maybe the Pittsburgh Steelers are willing to have 2-star wide receivers and are willing to kind of figure this thing out with both of them to be able to sign George. Your thoughts change on that? I mean, you weren't there with Omar, but you've been pretty consistent, more consistent than I, on the fact that George might not be the guy that gets traded. You fought back on against me on that a couple of times. Does Omar's words kind of push that on you a little bit more?
Yeah, my assumption of the entire George Pickens situation all summer long has been, yeah, there remains a possibility that George gets traded, but I think that's more so up to George than it is the Steelers. If George wants to hold out, or if George wants to say, hey, I'm not playing unless I get a contract extension, then the Steelers might have their hand forced, but it felt like it had to be, their hand needed to be forced. The one thing that I need to constantly remind myself of, and I think this is something that a lot of people in the Steelers fan base need to start reminding themselves of, is this isn't the Pittsburgh Steelers under Kevin Colbert. And we have seen over the past 2 years, time and time again, example after example, that Omar Khan is running this ship much differently. Last year, he was trying to make a home run acquisition at wide receiver for Brandon Ayuk. Everybody said, well, that's not what the Steelers do. Well, maybe under Omar Khan, maybe it is.
Yes.
Omar Khan did trade for DK Metcalf and gave him a $130 million contract, $150 million contract. And people said, well, that's not what the Steelers do. Well, maybe it's what Omar Khan does. And now everybody is saying, even after those examples and many more, quarterback position is another one. The fact that they've gone complete scratch the last 2 years and said, we're going to build it from nothing. Even after all those examples, myself included, a lot of people have said, well, this means George is gone because the Steelers don't pay for 2 wide receivers. Maybe it's just what Omar Khan does. And maybe we just haven't learned that yet. that we cannot look at the Steelers as an organization anymore and say what they did 10 years ago tells us what they're going to do in the future. That just might not be the case anymore. And I have to kind of unlearn myself to that reality, because Steelers fans have been primed and taught that, hey, they do what they've been doing. Maybe not anymore. Maybe Omar Khan brings a completely new feel to this organization, and maybe he views team building completely differently than we have seen from anybody else in a Pittsburgh Steelers GM chair. So maybe they do get a deal done. I don't know how they do it, but again, the more we hear from Omar Khan and the Steelers organization, the more you realize this is not the same old Steelers, and anything and everything could be on the table with Omar Khan.
What's up, Steelers Nation? I'm here to tell you about our new partner, Penalty Verdict. You ever watch college or NFL games and think, that call wasn't right? Yeah, we all do. Now, you can vote on it. With the Penalty Verdict app, you can vote on NFL and college football penalties in real time. Use the app to share your thoughts and engage in a community with fans who are looking for fair and accountable play. Unlock the next dimension of sports by engaging with real-time polling on referees, players, and teams. Then, view data-driven insight to have informed discussions about the game. Penalty Verdict is in the developmental phase and would love to hear feedback from you. What features do you want to see in the app next football season? Vote on NFL and college football penalty calls in real time with Penalty Verdict. Use our link.penaltyverdict.com/allsteelerstalk to get started today.
Yeah, I agree. I think that that's the biggest thing here, is that you just don't know. At the end of the day, you have no idea what things are going to be different and how they're approaching things. And, they have a defense in place. That's such a massive part here, is they have a defense in place. They have to pay TJ, but like, their contracts are done. Like, they're young, they're developed, they have the vets that they need. Like, they have money to spend, and they don't have the defensive urgency to go spend it on defense. So it's offense. It's the offensive side of the football that you're looking to spend the money on. Quarterback's not going to cost you a boatload of money, and next year quarterback's going to cost you no money, because you are going to go with either a rookie or a second-year guy. So you have money to spend in the future. Maybe George Pickens is where you spend that, especially if you're looking at it going, the offensive line most likely is in place. There are going to be changes, but those are most likely going to come through the NFL draft. And that's pretty set in stone. Running back, Jaylen Warren is signed. Chances are they're going to draft another one who's going to be the guy, and maybe Jaylen comes back on another deal next year, or maybe he runs himself out of Pittsburgh because he costs too much money like Najee did. That's certainly on the table. Pat Fryermuth's signed. DK is signed. Where's the money going? You're not just going to sit around with $60 million in salary cap space and say that's just okay. We're fine with that just in case. No, you're going to spend it. And you're going to spend it on guys that it deserves to be spent on. That's potentially George Pickens. That's where we're standing with George Pickens. I truly, this is the first time that I think my mind is shifting on the matter, and things could change, obviously. And his decision at training camp is going to play such a significant role in this entire saga. But I'm open to admit that my train of thought throughout this might have been a little off, maybe a little presumptuous, with, okay, they are looking for, and don't get me wrong, like, I don't report anything to you guys unless I'm told something. And I was clearly told that, George is a name to watch as a trade candidate. And okay, great. I'm going to tell everybody that because I was told that. Maybe when is different. And also maybe the train of thought has changed over the last couple of weeks or so on and so forth. So we'll see what happens. It's developing. It's ongoing. But the Pittsburgh Steelers certainly have the door open to have George Pickens and DK, which would be awesome. You want to talk ridiculous wide receiver core and come a long way. George Pickens, DK Metcalf, Calvin Austin, and Roman Wilson, who they anticipate to be back this season. Huge. Absolutely huge.